For the 6th season in a row, Walters is the official bar of the Nats Chat podcast, located across the street from the ballpark, just off South Capitol Street.
The Walls, 2 strikes. Here's the pitch. Swing a fly ball deep left for Cruz. Back Yastrzemski to the warning track, looking up, and there it goes. Daylen Cruz dumps one down to the Nationals bullpen, his first home run in the big leagues this season. And the Nationals jump on the board first here in the 4th inning. It's 1-0. That's got to feel good for Daylen Cruz.
Force play at the plate on the front end of a double play, and swings and drives going to deep right field toward the corner. This is way back. This ball is going. It's gone. Goodbye. Bang, zoom goes Keibert Ruiz, muscling up with a leadoff home run here in the top of the 5th inning. And on 2 solo homers in consecutive innings, the Nationals lead the Braves 2-0. And now Lovelady comes set, kicks, delivers the pitch. Breaking ball pulled to the ground at third. Bibas has it. He plants, he throws on to Garcia, and a curly W's in the books. And that's the shouting of Richard Lovelady, finishing off save number 4. A 1-2-3 bottom of the 9th inning for him here in Atlanta. The Nationals out of the dugout on the field to celebrate a victory at Truist Park. Our final score with a curly W in the books. The Washington Nationals 2 and the Atlanta Braves 0.
And welcome to Nats Chat. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. I'm joined by Washington Nationals insider Mark Zuckerman of NatsJournal.com. He is at Truist Park in Atlanta, where the Washington Nationals on Saturday tossed a 1-hit shutout at the National League East leading Atlanta Braves. Heck, the National League leading Atlanta Braves. A 2-0 win at the Braves on Saturday as starting pitcher Jake Irvin and relievers Brad Lord and Richard Lovelady combined on a 1-hit shutout, including 6 no-hit innings. This also was a game that included a 41-minute rain delay. We are 1 game away from the Nats being exactly 1/3 of the way through their 2026 regular season. The Nats are 26-27, 16-11 on the road versus 10-16 at home. And consider what the Nats did on Saturday. Tossed a 1-hit shutout at the mighty Braves, who came into Saturday number 1 in MLB in team OPS plus at 120. 100 is league average. 120 is 20% above the league average. That is superb. And yet the Nats on Saturday tossed a 1-hit shutout at the Braves. This installment of Nats Chat brought to us by Mason Kalfas. He is the top legal recruiter in Washington, D.C. Mason has been with us since our first season, and you can reach him at 202-486-3535. The Nats on Saturday got home runs from Daylen Cruz and Keibert Ruiz. And yes, I did say Daylen Cruz, so good to see him homer. You look at Jake Irvin, Brad Lord, and Richard Lovelady, not just the 1-hit shutout, but 11 strikeouts versus 1 walk. And the Nats in this game overcame Irvin leaving the game due to injury off starting the game and then resuming pitching in the game after that rain delay. Mark, this was some win by the Nats on Saturday.
I could argue it's their best win of the year or most impressive win of the year. To hold that lineup to 1 hit the way that they did, I think that speaks volumes about the job that the pitching staff did. And yeah, you'd love a little bit more offense, of course, but the guy they were facing, Grant Holmes, was pretty locked in as well. The fact that it included a Daylen Cruz home run is great. The fact that the bullpen was so good after the injury scare with Jake Irvin, I think, you put that all together, that's a really good win, bouncing back from the extra inning loss the night before. If you had said to me coming into this game, and we discussed it a little bit last night, like, what's your biggest concern coming into this game? I'm saying, I don't know if they're going to have the pitching to get through this one. And then you put a rain delay in there too, and you're thinking, how are they going to manage this one? And they pulled it off beautifully, thanks to the efforts of Jake Irvin and Brad Lord especially, and then Richard Lovelady. And how about Lovelady? Opener on Friday night, closer on Saturday night. That's not an easy thing to do. I want to give him some credit for that. That's an impressive 24 hours that he had.
Richard Lovelady is doing some good stuff for the Nats. We're going to get to him coming up shortly. But with Jake Irvin, there is a lot to digest with what he did in this game. So he pitched really well, but he left the game due to what's being called discomfort in the area of the back of his right shoulder and or right lat. Like I said, he started the game, then resumed pitching after that 41-minute rain delay, 5 scoreless and hitless innings, 7 strikeouts. He threw a lot of strikes, 80 pitches, 52 strikes, just 28 balls. But we should start with the ailment here. It sounds like it's something he had been dealing with. You noted that in a post on X. But there's also the aspect of him coming out to pitch after the rain delay. You don't often see that. And so the obvious question I think we all were asking ourselves during the game was, well, did that exacerbate something? Did that, cause something? So what do we know here about why Irvin left the game and what he's dealing with here?
Well, he was asked about that, the rain delay, and he kind of shrugged his shoulders and said, there's no way really to know.
Yeah, it's impossible to say. It's impossible to say.
But that, wasn't exactly a denial that it may not have had something to do with it. He has dealt with something along these lines in the past. He didn't give specifics of when that was or what exactly it was. This is the back of the shoulder, the right shoulder towards the lat muscle. So this is not, at least the preliminary indication, not what you would call like an arm injury in terms of like his rotator cuff or something like that. When you hear shoulder, this is more the back of it. So I think there's that to keep in mind. He said he really just felt it on right at the end of the fifth inning, a couple of maybe his last few pitches. I noticed at the time, didn't think too much of it. His last pitch, there's a ground ball back up the middle, and he tried to kind of reach for it, maybe make a play on it. Didn't get to it. It was fielded by Nasim Nunez and throw to first. And Irvin kind of hunched over a little bit as if to say, like, ooh, that didn't feel right. And I thought maybe it was more of a back or an oblique that as he tried to reach for the ball, but I don't think it was that. I think it was his reaction to the actual pitch that he threw. So he goes down to the dugout. He lets them know about it. In between innings, he's doing some work in the tunnel, but decided, let's go out there and at least give it a try at like full speed, throwing a warm-up pitch to see how it goes. He threw one, and as he told us, like, he kind of was laughing and saying, I couldn't tell you what the velocity was or where that pitch went. I could just tell you it didn't feel right.
I couldn't tell you what the shape or the velocity of the pitch actually looked like, but I do know that it didn't feel right.
And so he knew after one pitch like that, okay, we're not taking any chances. He motioned to the dugout. The trainer came out and they took him off the field. He's going to get an MRI first thing on Sunday morning.
It's like more lat, like between the shoulder and lat. We'll get an MRI first thing tomorrow morning just to get a better idea of what it's looking like.
He was asked his level of concern, and he said not much, and he described it as precautionary. So there's that. But you generally don't get an MRI unless there's at least a little bit of concern. And I would think, unless that thing comes back 100% clean and he feels 100% healthy on Sunday, I could see them wanting to be careful with this, not take any chances, even if it's just a little bit of time to miss. I don't know that they would want to force that issue and try to make him go back out there and pitch. That's not worth it. And as he described too, after feeling it on that first warm-up pitch, he said, yeah, I could try to power through it and throw a couple more, but maybe that just makes it even worse. And who knows how serious it becomes at that point. So I think there's a little bit of concern here with it. And it's too bad because he pitched the best game that he has in quite some time. And it wasn't just the results. It was the way he looked. He looked outstanding for those 5 innings.
Yeah, Irvin, it's amazing with him because we know he had such a rough season last season. He's not having a particularly good season this season, but he does this every once in a while where he looks good. And he makes you think, you know what, this is worth continuing to pursue. And you know what, maybe there is something there. And with Irvin this season, it is remarkable what he has done from a strikeouts perspective. Jake Irvin last season, in what was, again, a really bad season, had a strikeouts per 9 innings of 6.20. Irvin now this season, in what overall is not a good season, has a strikeouts per 9 innings of 10.1. He has improved on his strikeouts per 9 innings by nearly 4 full strikeouts. That is jaw-dropping. That is not something you see with any kind of frequency in MLB, especially from a guy who has been around for multiple seasons as Jake Irvin has been. And it's an odd deal because, like I said, overall, he's not having a good season. 11 games, all starts. The ERA is 5.23. The whip isn't that bad, but it's not particularly good, 135, but 10.1 strikeouts per 9 innings. And that uptick in strikeouts really is something. And I know it's something he had been working on. He had talked about, you noted it during the exhibition season with Jake Irvin. He has carried that over into the regular season. And that is worth highlighting. And when you see what he did on Saturday, and against this offense, like, I don't think that can be highlighted enough. The Braves are arguably the best offense in MLB, and that Irvin made them look feeble in this game. Just so impressive on his part.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. And I think what stood out particularly about today, 14 swings and misses, 11 of them on his curveball. So he was not just getting the strikeouts, but getting them with swings and misses. And we talk so much about his velocity. He was 94, 95, and he maintained that all the way through the fifth inning. So that was a good sign for a guy who, as we know, very often those numbers start to dip down where he's now 90, 91 by the time his starts are done. So I think there was so much to be encouraged by, aside from the way that it ended there for him with the shoulder issue. Let's see where it goes from here, because of course there's the question of, is he hurt or not? If he is okay, you hope that this, and really his last start was, had some good signs too. You hope that this is all him getting on track and maybe could put something together. We just talked a couple of weeks ago about, is it possible that his job could be in jeopardy, and could he be going down if he doesn't get it together here soon? What he showed, especially in this one, is that he does have it. He has the ability to dominate not just any lineup, but one of the best lineups in baseball when he can sustain the velocity and when he can get the swings and misses like he is. That's a good combination, and it gives him the opportunity to be really effective.
It's really interesting, too. We talk about, the process, right? And the Nats being in on analytics like never before. There are 3 really surprising increases, statistically speaking, with Nats players so far here. You have the surprising increase for Jake Irvin in his strikeouts. You have the surprising increase for C.J. Abrams in his walks, and you have the surprising increase for Jacob Young in his home runs. And these are 3 things that I don't know that anyone could have reasonably saw coming, and we're seeing these things happen. Now, it's not as simple as the Nats have this new process and Paul Taboni waved a magic wand and all of a sudden these guys are excelling in these categories. But, it's hard to ignore this. I mean, this is a stunning rise for Jake Irvin in terms of his strikeouts. C.J. Abrams, who never drew walks, is drawing walks this season, albeit in a season in which walks are up as a whole in MLB. So that should be noted. And as we've talked about with Jacob Young, he's hitting homers at a rate that we had never seen before. So good to see these things. And you obviously just hope that they continue.
Yeah. And, I think that it's, as we've talked about so much, there are the tangible results that we're looking for to see improvement, but there's also positive changes and evidence of improvement that's not necessarily just on the bottom line results, but just in the way they look and in the way they're either throwing or the way that they're pitching. And whether that's all a result of the new front office and coaching staff, whether it's on the players, whether it's some combination of it all, it's all encouraging. And I think, as we've discussed so much, yes, it's an important season to see how the big name guys do and how the top minor league prospects do. But I've said all along, one of the best signs of whether or not this new group has got what you want, the sign that they can really help take this team to the next level, is can they get the players who were not great in the last year or two to improve? And not the star players, but those kind of run-of-the-mill players. And Jacob Young and Jake Irvin would be high on that list of those type of players. So far, so good. It's been really nice to see, and credit to the players for taking whatever advice they've been given and now putting it into practice and seeing the positive results from it.
The process, people. Trust the process. Hey, are you a law firm partner or associate looking to transition to a new firm because of compensation? If this sounds like you should explore the lateral market and give Mason Kalfas a call. Mason is the top legal recruiter in the Washington, D.C. area. He has been a Nats Chat podcast advertiser since the beginning of our show. To find the best law firm out there for your future career, call Mason Kalfas today, 202-486-3535.
Here's the set, the 1-2. Swing and a miss. He struck him out. It's a foul tip back into the glove of Keibert Ruiz. What a job by Brad Lord. He pitches around the Braves' first hit and an error, and the Braves strand 2 men on base. Brad Lord gets it done here in the 7th inning.
Also, with Nats pitching in this 2-0 win at the Braves on Saturday, Brad Lord and Richard Lovelady combining for 4 scoreless innings. We have sung the praises of Brad Lord repeatedly, and we are going to continue to do so. How good has he been in this role of long man? Lord on Saturday, 3 shutout innings, 3 swinging strikeouts, including a 5-pitch swinging strikeout of Austin Riley with runners at the corners, 2 outs, and the Nats holding a 2-0 lead in the bottom of the 7th. And Lord, immediately after the strikeout, showed some emotion. It was nice to see that. Lord overs 3 scoreless innings, 47 pitches, 32 strikes, just 15 balls. And Richard Lovelady, a perfect bottom of the 9th for the save. In facing the Braves numbers 2 through 4 batters in Michael Harris II, Matt Olson, and Ozzie Albies. So that was a big boy save by Lovelady, preserving a 1-hit shutout by facing the heart of the order of the top offense, or at least one of the top offenses in MLB. Brad Lord now, you look at what he has done, 16 games, all in relief, 35 innings, ERA 2.83, whip 1.03. Lovelady has this odd discrepancy between the ERA and the whip, and the ERA now is approaching being lower than the whip. But 15 games, including 3 starts, 15 and a third innings. His ERA is 176. His whip is 150. 4 for 4 on saves. Good stuff from Lovelady, and really good stuff from Brad Lord. I mean, you've talked about him maybe being the most valuable pitcher on this pitching staff. Man, did he come through in this game.
This was the perfect example of why I believe that this is the perfect role for Brad Lord. And I'm sure there are people who are looking at this and saying, if Jake Irvin does have to go on the IL, maybe Lord should take over that spot in the rotation. And my answer to that is no, I don't think that's the way to go. Andrew Alvarez, that would make sense to me if they want to go that way. But to me, having Brad Lord be able to do what he did in this game, not once every 5 days, but every 3 or maybe 4 days, that to me is way more valuable than having him as a starter. His physical conditioning is such that he can be used like this, and he doesn't need the time off between the outings. He can give you multiple innings every time he goes out there. He's got guts, man. He goes out there and pitches in that really tight spot where it looks like the game's about to get away from them after the Jorbit Bibas error that was just a ghastly error. And now all of a sudden it's 1st and 3rd, go-ahead run at the plate. And what does Lord do? He sets him down in order after that. And you saw the emotion from him. I think it's so valuable what he's doing. And as we've discussed, you just said, 35 innings that he's thrown now? He's on pace for like 110 innings this year out of the bullpen. I'll take that over maybe 140 or 150 as a starter, because these are more meaningful innings, I think, that he's pitching when he comes in and goes multiple innings in tight games, getting out of jams and helping bridge the gap from the starter to whoever finishes the game.
Entering Saturday, there was a 3-way tie for first on the Nats in terms of pitcher WAR per Baseball Reference. The 3-way tie, starter Foster Griffin, relievers Brad Lord and Richard Lovelady, each guy at 0.8. So if you go by WAR, Brad Lord absolutely has been one of the most valuable pitchers, if not the most valuable pitcher on this pitching staff this season. And how about Lovelady in there as well? Well, the Nats offense in this 2-0 win at the Braves on Saturday ended up doing just enough to win. This was not some banner performance by what, of course, overall has been a really good offense this season. Just 2 runs, just 7 hits, just 2 walks, 0 for 5 with runners in scoring position, 15 strikeouts. I mean, you think about that, 0 for 5 with runners in scoring position, 15 strikeouts, and yet the Nats won at the best team in the National League. But 4 of the Nats' 7 hits were extra base hits. The Nats had 2 homers, a triple, a double, and 3 singles. And one of the homers by Daylen Cruz, and nothing mattered more with this offense in this game than Daylen Cruz homering. We, on the last installment of the podcast, talked about how what we had seen so far from Daylen Cruz in this latest stint at the major league level was very reminiscent of what we had seen from Cruz at the major league level. But Cruz in this game as the Nats starting center fielder and number 5 batter, 1 for 4 with a solo homer. Cruz in the Nats 1-run fourth, a 1-out solo homer to left field on an 0-2 pitch to put the Nats up 1-0, his first major league home run in this regular season. Daylen Cruz hit the ball hard, as he has hit balls hard previously. The homer had an exit velocity per StatCast of 102.6 miles per hour. He elevated this ball per StatCast. This would have been a home run in every park in MLB, so this was not some fluke home run. This was a legitimate homer, and obviously the thing you say is, give us more of that, Daylen Cruz, but awesome to see him hit that home run.
Yes, and you ask what was the difference on that swing versus some of the other ones. It was the location of the pitch. It was an 0-2 slider that was up in the zone, a hanging slider. So many of his either hard groundouts or swings and misses have been on pitches at the knees or even below. He struck out in his first at bat, and that was on a slider down below the zone. And I said Grant Holmes for the Braves had everybody fishing today. He was getting them to swing at whatever he threw up there, and most of them were down and well out of the zone. And Cruz did that earlier in the at-bat. He's down 0-2, but what he finally did was he got one that he could do something with up in the zone, and you saw the damage. And he talked about when he was called up the other day that he felt like the biggest thing he was working on at AAA and that he was starting to see success over the last few weeks was just zeroing in on pitches over the heart of the plate. He knows he does damage on those kind of pitches you call mistake pitches, and he just needs to lay off of that other stuff. Now, so far, and this is only his 5th game up here, he's had trouble laying off those other pitches. Finally, in this case, he got one he could do something with, and he went after it and put the best swing of his season, short season, on it. So keep that up. Just focus on the pitch location, get him up in the zone, and I think you can see him have some success. And he lined out hard to left field later in the game as well. So another good sign that, maybe he is starting to see the ball a little better.
Yeah, Grant Holmes in this game, 2 runs in 5 innings, 10 strikeouts versus 2 walks. Jor beat Bibas with the other homer. He was the Nats starting third baseman and number 8 batter, 2 for 4 with a solo homer and a single. Did commit that fielding error, but Bibas in the Nats 1-run 5th. Leadoff first pitch homer to right field for a 2-0 Nats lead. We finally got a triple from Daylen Lile. We had been waiting on that. We finally got that in this game. Lile as the Nats starting left fielder and number 6 batter, 1 for 4 with a triple. Did strike out 3 times, but he in the top of the second had a 2-out triple off the outfield wall in right center field on a 1-2 pitch. We know that triples can come in bunches, certainly did for Lile last season. He hit so many in his short time at the major league level last season. I wonder if this starts a run for triples for Daylen Lile.
I hope so, because as we've discussed, it's so much fun to watch him go when it's a ball in the gap or down the lines, and he just takes off as soon as he leaves the plate. This was no fluke one. This was perfectly struck to the gap, and he turned on the Jets to get there to third base. The shame, of course, was that Nasim Nunez couldn't get him home. He struck out on a few pitches right after that, including an ABS challenge that was among the worst ABS challenges we have seen so far this year. And that came right as the rain was coming down and they went into the rain delay. So that part of it was unfortunate, but I would love to see more of Lile doing that. And I'd love to see at some point here, Lile and even Abrams hit a little higher in the order. I don't want to go off on a tangent here. I didn't love this batting order from Blake Butera. Garcia and Tenna batting second and third. 2 of them had a bad game. Tenna especially, his first 3 at-bats, he struck out 3 times on 9 total pitches and never saw a fastball at any point in there. I understand he's been good off the bench as a pinch hitter. Why is Jose Tenna hitting ahead of C.J. Abrams and Daylen Lile in your batting order? And I understand sometimes Butera is trying to balance lefties and righties and playing for matchups later in games. But in this case, he went with a bunch of lefties to start the game. No reason, if you're willing to do that, why not have Abrams and Lile higher up there as well? I didn't love that lineup from him.
Blake Butera clearly loves having Wood in the 1 spot, Abrams in the 4 spot, and then everything else is kind of up for grabs. I mean, we long ago stopped noting who's batting second, but that does continue to be an adventure. Every game, who is batting second? We have had instances. I mean, I'll never forget this. About a month ago, Andres Chaparro gets called up, bats, I believe it was third, and then gets demoted after the game. How often do you bring a guy up from AAA, bat him third, and then demote him after the game? So, it's been a wild ride with these lineups beyond, again, those 2 staples of Wood in the 1 spot and Abrams in the 4 spot.
And that'll bring in Keibert Ruiz. Ruiz batting average up to 260 with his hot surge. 4 homers, 22 runs batted in over his last 8 games. He is hitting 13 for 30. That's .433 with 3 homers and 13 driven in. And he golfs one in the air right field deep, but it's playable if it's fair. Toward the corner, Acuna drifting back on it, and it's off the wall. Acuna too close to the wall, so Albies, the second baseman, fields it in shallow right. Bibas will go to third, Ruiz to second. Well, Acuna took no route on that ball. He was coming in and toward the line. The ball went over his head and off the fence.
Also in this game with the Nats offensively, I mentioned James Wood. He was the Nats starting right fielder, number one batter, 1 for 2 with a single and 2 walks. And Keibert Ruiz had another extra base hit. He was the Nats starting catcher and number 9 batter, 1 for 3 with a double. Ruiz in the top of the third, a first pitch double on a high fly ball that went off the outfield wall in right field. Did you notice Ronald Acuna Jr., the Braves right fielder, on that play? What was he doing? Did he misjudge the ball? Was he trying to pretend like the ball was going to be a homer and then he could maybe play the ball into an out? Like, that was a weird visual, what Acuna did on that play.
I have stopped trying to figure out what Ronald Acuna Jr. does in right field because he does a lot of things that other players don't. And I think some of it is him trying to deke the other team. Like you said, that may be some of it, but he takes some very strange routes, gives some very weird looks on the way that he approaches these balls. I'm going to assume that he's kind of trying to play around with the other team and take advantage of it. We know how great his arms. I mean, he almost threw Lile out on that triple. It was just a bullet from deep right field to third base. I had the same reaction on the Ruiz ball. Like, what's going on here? It almost like throws you off because you have such a mental image in your head. Like, when a ball goes in the air, you follow the fielder to tell you where the ball is. If it's hit to right field in this ballpark, you cannot follow Ronald Acuna because that's not going to tell you where the ball actually is.
And your Keibert Ruiz slugging percentage now at .505. Just amazing that he has got that slugging at .505. The on base is .279. I mean, it's not like he's getting on base at some extreme clip, but the slugging is just awesome. And another extra base hit for Ruiz in this game and a terrific win for the Nats. Did you get a sense in the clubhouse after the game like this, at least to the Nats, felt like one of their bigger wins this season?
Yeah, I think they were really pleased with it to get that kind of pitching performance, of course.
And anytime you can get a good win like that against a good team, you know, it always means something a little bit more to us. So every win's special to us, but today was a good win for all of us.
I think there was some concern about Irvin to make sure that he's okay, but I think they felt like that was a real team effort from the pitching standpoint. I think that everybody was happy for Cruz, of course, and I think they were just happy to have bounced back. I mean, those were 2 tough losses back to back, especially extra innings on Friday night to sit through the rain delay and everything else. Yeah, I think they felt good about this, but this is a pattern that's establishing right now with this team. You know, they get to a game under 500 or they get to 500, then they lose once or twice and you think, okay, well, maybe that's the end of it. And then they come right back and win the next day. So there is a resilience to this team. And there is, I think, an impressive ability to not really care too much about what happened the night before and just go out and do what they have to do to try to win the game the next day. And that's a wonderful quality to have. Eventually, you hope that pays off when you're playing some really meaningful games down the stretch of a season in a pennant race. I think that is an important trait to have. It's nice to see that they seem to already have that now at this stage of the rebuild.
Well, I can say this. If we, on the next installment of the podcast, are talking about the Nats having officially arrived at the 1/3 mark with a series win at the National League leading Braves on Memorial Day weekend. I mean, just from a storyline standpoint, from a narrative standpoint, how great would that be to be able to say, hey, we're at 54 games into the 162. The Nats just won 2 out of 3 games at the Braves, and the Nats are 500 at 27-27. Like, that's the kind of thing, first of all, nobody would have anticipated, but second of all, just would sound so nice going into Memorial Day on Monday.
Yeah, I mean, that would be a phenomenal way to leave town and head up to Cleveland. But even if they don't, even if they lose on Saturday, they would hit the 1/3 mark of the season and be on pace for 78 wins. Who among us would not have been thrilled with that 2 months ago when the season started? Now, you got to sustain it. We know a lot can change over the rest of the season. But to be where they're at right now, it's hard not to be pretty excited about what they've been able to accomplish, both in terms of the actual results, but in the way that they've gotten there as well.
And game 3 of this series will be on Sunday afternoon at 4:10. And Foster Griffin will be the Nats starting pitcher. And this is going to be interesting, as we have noted with Foster Griffin. So good over the first 8 starts, rather shaky over these last 2. Facing a very good offense in the Braves, but of course a very good offense against which the Nats tossed a 1-hit shutout on Saturday. So what the Nats get from Griffin certainly will be of utmost significance in our next conversation. All right, we offer shout-outs on the Nats Chat podcast. A happy birthday to our buddy Vivek, a Nats Chat listener from day one. He routinely says during games, Al is not going to like that when the Nats make a mistake. Let's hope that this year for Vivek is much more James Wood and C.J. Abrams than Eddie Rosario and Alcides Escobar. I love these names of random Nats players during these rebuilding years. Alcides Escobar. We had a lot of Alcides Escobar conversations years ago, but that's not a name we have mentioned really at all in a long time.
No, and thank God for that, because that wasn't anybody who should have been discussed beyond his time here with the team. I will tell you, Vivek, that I often, in watching a game myself and seeing something that may happen during the course of it, my first thought is, oh, man, I can't wait to talk to Al. I can't wait to get Al's opinion on this one, because this is going to be right up his alley. So I'm with you on that one. I have the exact same thoughts.
Well, happy birthday, Vivek. We appreciate you listening so much. And we appreciate all of you listening. We always enjoy hearing from you. You can find us on X at Nats_chat. You can find us on Blue Sky at Nats Chat Podcast. You can email us natschatpodcast@gmail.com. Nats Chat is on the radio Sunday morning 9 to 10 on ESPN Richmond, which is 106.1 FM in the Richmond, Virginia area, and Sunday morning 9 to 10 on ESPN Radio 94.1 in the Virginia Beach area. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat, courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. For Mark Zuckerman, I'm Al Galdi. We thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat Podcast.
Here's the pitch. Swinging a fly ball, well hit straightaway center field. Racing back on this one, the center fielder Friedel. It's over his head, and it is gone. It just clears the wall to the left of dead center field. A long home run for Alcides Escobar, his third of the year. And the Nationals lead it 3-0. That one just kept carrying. It hit just beyond the yellow line and onto the green hill up toward the batter's eye at Great American Ballpark. Alcides Escobar puts a charge into one, and the Nationals have scored a run in each inning so far tonight.